this book a couple of years ago. I didn't know it was the first book of its kind on divorce in India. The topic of divorce is so rarely spoken about, and even when it is, there is still so much shame and stigma, although things are changing slowly. It is very important to remember that, our life is very short. This is the only one life we have. It just doesn't make sense to waste it being with someone who is abusive, who is manipulative, who is being violent towards you, whether it is physical violence, sexual violence, verbal violence, whether there's financial control. You have to learn to find a way to remove yourself from that situation. If you feel you're worried about your safety, then definitely plan for your safety, but especially if children are involved. Because I know that in India, if a woman starts saying that, or even talking about the fact that she wants to leave the marriage, 10 people will come and tell her, think of your children, my God, think of your children. And you know what? You must think of your children, because children are observing everything. Children are noticing everything. They are learning the lesson that this kind of behavior is okay, that if you are married, then your partner can behave with you any which way. They can hit you, they can insult you, they can abuse you, they can ignore you, they can control your finances, and that's okay. So your children are going to grow up to be someone who attracts a partner like that, or they're going to grow up to be someone who becomes a partner like that, or they're going to grow up to be someone who's just so afraid because they've seen you constantly afraid. They've seen you never being your true self because you're so scared either of the violence or of the financial control or of the abuse, that they believe you can't really be your authentic self, because that's scary. Having an intimate partner is scary. Emotional intimacy is terrifying. And they will grow up to be people who are avoidant. They may grow up to be a narcissist. So when a woman wants to leave an abusive or a violent relationship and people tell you, think of the children, please tell them, yes, I am thinking of the children. And that is precisely why I want to leave this relationship. Because children being raised by a happy, independent, free from abuse single mother are way better off than someone who's being forced to live in a family, whether it's a nuclear family or a joint family, where one of the partners is constantly abusive, even violent, because eventually the children are going to learn the lesson that this is okay and this is normal. So if you know of anyone, or if you yourself are going through a divorce and children are involved, do get yourself a copy of this book. I wrote this book precisely to be able to help children whose parents are going through divorce, because it's a very, it's a very traumatic experience even for the adults. So you can't even imagine how traumatic and confusing it is for the children who are involved, how terrifying it is for the children who are involved. And very often the other adults in the family don't really have the language or the capacity to be able to explain to the child what is going on, or the fact that there is hope at the end of the journey. They can get happiness as they cross through this milestone. So in order to help and support such children, I have written this book. It's available on Amazon. Do get a copy for any child who needs it and support them in their journey. Because at the end of the day, when you think about it, why do people get married? In our society, why do we encourage, particularly women, we say, oh, you must get married and you must have children. If you're not going to be happy, if your children are not going to be happy, if your children are going to grow up confused, afraid, resentful, maybe even full of distrust of other people, how are we going to build a society where there is happiness and joy, there is confidence, there is freedom, and there is a sense of justice for everyone, and everyone is allowed to fulfill their highest potential? So if we want to make the world a better place, as they say, start from home. So I urge you, if you are someone who's going through a relationship like this, or if you know of someone who's going through a relationship like this, support yourself or support your friend or relative to be able to at least recognize and accept that they are in a very toxic relationship, that it is definitely going to affect them and their children, and that intergenerational trauma is very real. I have seen it in many of my clients. When we start doing the inner child work and they start sharing their experiences, there is invariably a violent or an abusive parent in childhood. They may have blocked the memories, but when we do the work, the memories come out, and then suddenly they're like, oh my God, yes, I saw my father hit my mother, and when I tried to stop him, he hit me. Or they will say, oh yes, I remember my grandmother never used to give my mother food, and my mother used to just sit there and cry. I mean, all these stories will come out, and then they realize that these stories, which may have happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, are influencing their life, their patterns and their choices even now. So if you want to break this intergenerational trauma, if you want to make sure that you are the last one in this family line who's going to experience all this, you need to build your confidence, you need to build your capacity, you need to get the emotional freedom that will allow you to draw healthy boundaries and negotiate your way out of this. So if any of this resonates with you and you're interested in knowing more, do get in touch with me. I would love to be able to support you on your journey.